Welcome to Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, the show, where we drop a brand new show each and every Tuesday. The man down there, dashing Derek. The man in the middle. He is the man, the superstar, Merc. And my name is Devon. We appreciate you guys checking us out, where you can follow us on all social media platforms by searching Ultimate Wrestling Trivia. We are on the X, we are on the Instagram, we are on the Facebook. 40,000 plus, some shout out to our subscribers across all platforms. Love you guys so much. All right, well, it just recently happened. AEW All Out in Chicago, the Midwest. We're going to do a quick little review of this. This was a like, if you had to do a poll, was it a great pay-per-view? Was it a good pay-per-view? Was it an okay one? I feel like, not being a homer, it was a great pay-per-view top to bottom.
I think, top to bottom, I actually preferred All Out over All In. All In, I think, was more for the casual fans. It was more of like the big WrestleMania feel style show. Had a lot of the pomp and circumstance with the returns of like Sting, Jamie Hayter.
Yeah.
All Out, though, was for the sickos. Like, it had a lot of great wrestling, some disturbing
Memorable
wrestling,
moments,
a lot of violence, but All Out was definitely for me.
So I got to ask you, Merc, as being a former promoter, how do you feel about that when they have All In and All Out within like a week of each other? Is that good for business, bad for business? Like, I mean, or can the major companies get away with stuff like that again?
They have to, right, for their business model. And what you see is essentially you can't build two things at once. So you saw all the build and the energy go into promoting Wembley, and then when you have All Out at the now arena, formerly the Sears Center, you have such a short turnaround, right? Mm-hmm. So Dynamite, I thought, was phenomenal the last couple weeks as it built to this, because they didn't have those announced matches, and definitely they planted the seeds when they were in England. You're dealing with two different markets, so like, independent shows, obviously you're pulling from the same group of fans, whereas AEW is not, because you're literally in two different countries on opposite ends of the world. So that the ticket sales issue isn't necessarily related to having two large events. But from a storyline standpoint, it's very much the same. And I thought AEW did a really good job of giving us matches that we cared about. Also, matches that delivered as well. So just as importantly.
Yeah, and this was actually, fast forwarding a little bit to the media scrum at the end. Tony Khan, they obviously, as this recording was week 1 of the NFL, so he had to get down to Florida. So they didn't have that very long drawn out media scrum. And Tony Khan was saying that they were very close, like 90% close to signing a brand new TV deal. So as of this recording, we'll see how that comes into play and if that gets signed and everything. All right, we are going to do the All Out review. We're going to start with the 0 Hour, which was a solid outing where the Acclaimed defeated Iron Savages.
Probably the weakest card on the show. I mean, it's a pre-show. I prefer the pre-shows having the wrestling as opposed to like the panel of talking heads. But I mean, it was a pre-show match. What are you going to say about it?
Right. And it was,
I love the Acclaimed,
You got the shirt on, yeah. Shout out to them.
No, and like, they are entertaining, and they're definitely like AEW homegrown created stars.
And they are. That's one of those things too, when you go to a live event, things that you want to check out, like when Jericho had his music and CM Punk was there, you wanted to sing along to it. You want to know what Caster's going to do with his rap. Like, that's part of like the pomp and circumstance. Yeah, like you want to see what his rap is.
But I cannot get behind the Iron Savages. I think they're talented. I think they look like $1 million.
There's something about them that can't get over that next hump, though.
Is it a Timu bloodline, or? Yeah, I mean, they do resemble.
That was actually funny.
I can't necessarily.
Yeah. One of those.
Get invested in those guys.
The next was a trios match where we saw the premier athletes Tony Nese and a friend of ours, Arya Davari, and Josh Woods took on the team of Holograms, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, which they came out victorious. I'm digging that trios between Dustin and Holograms.
Yeah, Hologram's super fun to watch. He was a guy that really got over during that AEW residency in Texas. So to get over in Chicago, you know, it was definitely hard to do, but I think he won over the crowd there. Sammy Guevara and Dustin, I kind of like the tag team of those two guys. You know, they're the ROH tag team champions right now, so it's good to see Sammy back in action. And Dustin, man, he can still go.
Yeah.
100%. Like, the guy is timeless.
Yeah.
He's literally a living legend.
The next AEW, it was a little bizarre. They brought out the Costco guys, where they brought the Boom. I don't know anything about this at all.
It was like Boom and Doom, and I was lost. I don't know.
You can let us know.
Fill us in, please.
We are so off the charts on the Boom Costco guys. More trios action came next when Juice Robinson and the Guns took on Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. The Bang Bang Gang came out victorious. Very average C+-ish match. The Dark Order, I wish... I don't know, like, it's just so easy to say. I wish they would do more. I mean, you got so many wrestlers on the card. There's only so much you can do. But initially, you know, when I guess you had Brody Lee and stuff, you thought, hey, maybe this is going to be something. And maybe it's like the Iron Savages. It's just like, what are they missing?
Somebody's got to lose, I guess. I don't know.
My takeaway when this point of the card, I'm thinking to myself, wow, we're only a few matches in, and we've seen so many wrestlers. And that... And, you know, AEW's got 120 people under contract, and you only have so much TV time, so much pay-per-view minutes that you can dedicate to that humongous of a roster. And even though you have Dynamite and Rampage and Collision and Ring of Honor, it's so much. And I will say, like, I love the Bang Bang Gang, and I could not be more excited when Switchblade Jay White got signed to a contract. And I would love to see Juice Robinson out on his own.
He's so charismatic.
And and the Gun Club is so good. But at the same time, it's like, wow, we just saw a lot of good wrestlers, and like, we're not even into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, well, you're going to hate this because as it continues, Sky Blue came out and Queen Aminata saved Sky Blue, because she was on crutches, from Mariah May. So they had a little talking segment right there where Sky Blue got some love from her hometown Chicago crowd.
Yeah, for sure she did. I mean, it was fine for a segment. You know, Aminata against Mariah May, I don't know if that's the right opponent for her, because, I mean, Mariah May just starting out with this women's title, it's like you kind of want to put her against established contenders, I think.
Next up, more trios action, where Action Andretti teamed up with Top Flight as they took on the Undisputed Kingdom, where the Undisputed Kingdom actually won. Another fun trios matchup right there, which was cool. And also, Mortis was in that.
And Layla Gray was out there,
and
too.
STP as well, Shane Taylor's promotion. So, again, throwing a lot of talent into the ring, trying to get everybody
It's a pre-show.
I can appreciate AEW doing this, you know, and back when they had All In and the crazy 16-team multi-person match, you know, that, like, I applaud them for giving these guys and gals something to do.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like you said, it's a pre-show, but it's like, wow, it's just so, there's so many bodies.
Yeah, Undisputed Kingdom won that match. I thought that was the match of the 0 hour. Of course, we saw MXM Collection, which I'm digging those guys. That's another tag team that's on there. We saw a little backstage hilarious segment with them. And then we move to the all-out start of the pay-per-view finally. So this is one of those things, if you're going to watch some AEW, you got to invest about 4, 5, 6 hours if you're a sicko and watch the scrum after. There's a lot going on here. Again, not complaining. We love pro wrestling. It's good stuff. The opening main card saw MJF taking on a guy that he took out just a few months ago, and Daniel Garcia attacked him from behind. You knew right off the bat that this one was going to be a very physical, bloody, violent matchup. MJF came out victorious, defeating him in arguably a great opening contest.
Yeah, you talked about like the difference between All In and All Out and just having a couple weeks build, but this has been simmering in the back burner for a while, so there was definitely a lot of hate and heat during this match. But yeah, MJF came out victorious, so I don't know if Daniel Garcia, did he sign a new contract? Probably not right now. But then MJF gets taken out at, after the match was over. So maybe MJF is taking some time off. We'll see. But yeah.
I'm glad we didn't get my predictions on video for this because I would have bet you all the money in my bank account that after Dynamite in Milwaukee, when Daniel Garcia was left bloody, he was going to come out on top. And I was surprised by this. And now, obviously, MJF being such a marquee guy, you're not going to necessarily have him lose
back-to-back pay-per-views.
Right, like that would have been a lot. But I really truly thought, I was like, okay, MJF's under contract. He's such a star that he can overcome a loss rather easily, and it's not going to hurt his stardom. But if Daniel Garcia gets the win here, that could catapult him into other things. But if he's not under contract, then
so if you were to be the booker and both were under contract,
I was expecting Daniel Garcia with that Booker mentality to take the leap forward and to get a win over MJF. So, especially how he was left so bloodied in Milwaukee.
MJF is one of the loudest trash talkers in the business. Is there anybody better than him on the stick at all?
I don't know. Angelo Stefano's pretty good
That's
at talking
true,
trash, especially about AEW. So,
hence why he's in the back in catering for this show. Next, we move some tag team action for All Out in Chicago, which was a fantastic pay-per-view as Matthew and Nicholas Jackson defended the AEW World Tag Team Championships against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, where the Bucks came out victorious.
It was a fine match. I think it was one of the better Young Bucks matches in a while since they've taken on these new characters as EVPs. So they kind of lost a little bit of steam with me a little bit, but I mean, they're still one of the best tag teams out there. It was definitely interesting to see what happened with Claudio and Wheeler Yuta later on in the show. Yeah. So not to give any spoilers away just yet, but it was an okay match for me.
I'm going to put you guys out there on the spot, and this might be a future episode of best tag teams of all time. I hate to throw them on the Mount Rushmore, but Young Bucks, do they belong on there? Are they on the cusp of top four?
I know a lot of people, especially Angelo Stefano, are going to hate me for this, but Young Bucks are on my Mount Rushmore.
Recently did an 8-hour car ride with RPW heavyweight champion Brick McCarthy, and we were discussing the top 10 tag teams of all time for something to work on here for a future episode. And he looked at me a little bit when I originally said the Young Bucks, and then I explained to make your name outside of WWE, and they've definitely made a name for themselves.
Yes, marketing geniuses.
They deserve that, and they've accomplished so much. They've beaten so many teams, and obviously anybody that comes along down the line, they're nothing but a copy of the Hardys, and the Hardys are a copy of the Rockers, and the Rockers are a copy of the Rock and Roll Express or the Midnight Rockers.
It's just a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, so every tag team with muscles was a copy of the Road Warriors. So but you got to give the Bucks their due. So I didn't answer the question.
Okay,
and
that's all right. We'll tease it.
There
you go.
Yeah.
But there's always an argument to be made.
Check out a future episode, top 10 tag teams.
One of the more impressive moves by Claudio, as well as his swinging thing, where he swung, I think it was Matt Jackson, like 25 times. He swung him like insanely amount of times. That was always a very cool spot that they do there. Moving on to the next matchup, which I believe, hands down, thought it was a 10-star matchup. We were looking forward to see what Dave Meltzer rates it. It was for the International Championship, where none other than
the Bastard Pac
was the challenger against Will Ospreay. Ospreay came out on top. This, in my mind, was an A++ matchup. I mean, wow.
Match of the night, probably the best match out of All In and All Out for sure. I mean, what more can you say about Will Ospreay? I think he's just the complete total package, especially for AEW when it comes to in-ring and promos. He's gotten so much better.
I would say as of this recording, he's the best wrestler on the planet, hands down, right?
Absolutely. And then you put him in the ring with a guy like Pac. I mean, it's just, to me, like, I love this so much because it was just two guys having a professional wrestling match, and it was just all action. There was like no nonsense, no run-ins, just a straight up one-on-one match, and match of the night for sure.
Definitely one of those matches that was put on for like
the sickos.
For the Chicago crowd. If you know the Chicago crowd, is like, this is what you paid your ticket for, is to watch this. And the way Will Ospreay sold that brainbuster on the side of the ring too from Pac, I mean, it was just amazing matchup.
I think on September 7th in Chicago, Illinois, you had the match of the year for 2024, and it was between Will Ospreay and Pac.
Absolutely.
A little tease too afterwards. Ricochet was in the back, and Will Ospreay and Ricochet had their confrontation. So maybe
in due time,
maybe that could top it. We shall see.
Next, we moved on to a Chicago street fight where Stokely Hathaway looked on with confusion, amazement, as Chris Stanlander defeated Willow Nightingale in another amazing matchup. Willow's hardcore match gear was fun than her usual singlet. The ladies put on a show right here.
Yeah, and at first when I saw that this was the match following Will Ospreay and Pac, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is going to be death for them. But they delivered. I mean, it was like 12 minutes of like all action. They didn't give you a chance to, go down a little bit. You saw
definitely not a bathroom break.
No, you saw plenty of violence. And it was different than the main event too. You saw the thumbtacks and everything. So credit to these ladies. I think this was one of the best women's matches of the year in the U.S. for sure.
When I watch wrestling, and I like to, go beyond what you see, and that's just how I enjoy wrestling. And I couldn't help but think, oh no, this match is doomed. And like Derek said. And so shout out to either especially the women performers, but as well as their producer, whether it was Jerry Lynn or Pat Buck or whoever helped them put this match together. They have a tough task to follow a match of the year, and they held their own like that. That was awesome.
Yeah, that Statlander spear through the stage, or when she went on the stage through the table. Amazing, good stuff right there. And also love that Stoke writing the RIP to New Jack. I thought that was a very
nice touch.
Nice little touch on the chair, noted by the announcers. All right, Okada had one of the biggest challenges of any champion at All Out, and we saw that as Okada faced fan favorite Orange Cassidy. Takeshita, who just came off of the G1, had a tremendous showing there, and Mark Briscoe. This was a great matchup. Okada actually walked away as victorious. Had a very cool jacket as well.
Yeah, it was a fun match, but for a four-way for this Continental Championship, like, I want my titles to feel a little bit different, and this Continental title seemed more of like a one-on-one thing. Okada, since he's been in AEW, kind of a letdown a little bit for me. I mean,
some people online are saying that he's just like the little bit better than like a Tozawa. They just said you're basically paying a lot of money for a Tozawa-ish character. I feel like that's a little too much, but when you're used to 5, 6, 7-star matches from Okada, I mean, I guess it's a little tougher, but smarter for him, is like easier on the body.
Yeah, more focus on the character work. But I mean, we did see him go up against Kyle Fletcher in Milwaukee on Dynamite, and that was a great match. So I mean, it shows that Okada can still go, and he's not just there to collect a paycheck.
When this match was first announced, and it was Okada, and then the 3 like vacant profiles, and I'm, there was so many open ends to who this could be. My expectations were low. I was like, oh no, like I wasn't necessarily looking forward to this, especially with how little they've taken advantage of Okada's in-ring ability. And then to throw in Takeshita, to throw in Orange Cassidy, and Mark Briscoe, who's been fun and a wild man. I was like, all right, this match is going to be fun, and I cared.
So as a performer, how hard is it? Like when you said it, so like you feel like it's a one-on-one. When you're working like a four-way, is that harder to put together as a performer, if this makes sense at all, where you just see like two guys roll out of the ring and let these two workers go instead of everybody going at once?
It comes down to time.
Okay.
You know, how much time is this match given? So a four-way on maybe a one-segment Dynamite is a lot different than a pay-per-view where you're given a larger block of time. So in the beginning, a brand new independent wrestler, it's hard. It's hard because you're trying to get on the same page with two people instead of one person or three people. But a pro, like all these guys are, many thousands and thousands of matches, it's not so bad. They just need the time in their match to tell the proper story.
And Mark Briscoe, of course, makes one of the funniest sounds on the planet in wrestling as well.
Oh yeah.
You want to do it? Mark?
I think you're a little bit better.
Mercedes Moné faced one of her toughest tests as the TBS championship was on the line. She faced Hikaru Shida as well, where Mercedes Moné got her hand raised. She was victorious. Both had awesome gear. Mercedes Moné came out to the Japanese robe. She's always got tremendous gear. I mean, she always puts all her thought into that. Not shocked by the outcome of this?
No, I was expecting Mercedes to go over. I thought this was a little bit better than the Brit match, but I mean, that was kind of a low bar for me. I was kind of disappointed in that match.
Yeah, let's just call it what it was. It was a very bad match, the Brit and Mercedes.
Yeah.
It was not good.
But yeah, I mean, like, this was probably the worst match of the night, I think. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but this Mercedes signing, like, I don't know if it's really paid off for AEW, and I'm probably more high on Mercedes than most people. I thought the match with Willow was probably her best work, but kind of disappointed in Mercedes and AEW so far.
Do you feel that they, when I say they, behind the scenes, are leaning into the Mercedes hate that she's receiving, that they're like, go out there and actually like be bad on the stick and not necessarily go out and be a bad wrestler, which she does okay, but like they're definitely leaning into this like hatred of her.
They are, and they should, I guess.
Yeah, because what else are you gonna do?
Right. Like you've got two options. You can roll with it and lean into it, like you said, or you can go against the grain and be like, no. This is the
force fed. You're gonna like
baby face that we're gonna hitch our wagon to, and that character to be like, I'm richer than you, I'm better than you, I'm the CEO, doesn't lend itself to relating to the everyday common fan. So, you know, they do need to lean into it, and I think they have more in recent weeks. And it, like you said, I do think it was better than the Brit match. So. You know,
yeah, we are
big
definitely
fans of Shida at Ultimate Wrestling Trivia.
We are reviewing All Out pay-per-view. Of course, you could drop in the comments what you liked best, what you liked worst, what you thought was a thumbs up, thumbs down. We would love to hear from you guys out there. And the final sanctioned match of the night saw Bryan Danielson defend the world title against current TNT champion, the scapegoat, Jack Perry. And of course, now that maybe if you haven't seen it due to the graphic nature of the attack of Bryan Danielson, they won't be showing any of the footage of what came afterwards. Of course, Bryan Danielson came out victorious in what I thought was a fabulous quote-unquote main event.
Yeah, it was a well-wrestled match. Probably one of the better Jack Perry matches. And I mean, I've heard, like, this company, I've heard it from a little birdie, that this company is going to be built around Jack Perry someday. Like, he's going to be a world champion, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, he had a special video package before his entrance, which I thought, like you said, they're like really going to give him the ball and let him run with it.
Yeah.
So
Tony Khan is very high on Jack Perry. I mean, it's very hard to have a bad match with Bryan Danielson. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. And you talked about that post-match angle was probably the most intriguing thing on this card, I think. The stuff with Moxie is just, like I said, intriguing. Like, to see what's going to happen, you know, him and Pat, Claudio, Marina Shafir's in the mix, too. So, in it, you know, cutting off Christian, who is going to cash in, like, the fake money in the bank, whatever they're calling it. So yeah, it was interesting to see what they're gonna do. Like, I'm definitely gonna tune into Dynamite and wonder what's gonna happen.
So they're not going to call it the Black
No, they're
Combat
done now.
Cool,
Yeah.
the Combat Club or whatever. So
Black
like,
Cool Combat
yeah,
Club.
I wonder what Mox and Shafir are going to be called.
Yeah.
Like, it's very intriguing. So like, if you don't know by now, like spoiler, Mox put the bag over Danielson's
Don't
face.
try this at home.
No, don't
kids.
try that at home. Which was a very graphic scene. I was just like, wow, like. Give you a little goosebumps there.
Yeah,
so.
like I really like this new Mox character. Like, he's come in with a new fresh, paint of coat or
Attitude.
a fresh
Yes.
coat of paint.
Yes.
Let me get that right. You like our sayings here in Ultimate Wrestling Trivia. But yeah, he brings just like a realism to the table. So I'm definitely interested to see what's gonna happen.
Hey, there's no need to apologize for live YouTube. I'm always bumbling my words and people thinking I'm having a stroke around here and stuff. The final contest of the night was a lights out cage match between Hangman Adam Page and former AEW champion Swerve Strickland, which saw the Swerve stomps of all stomps, and it had a brick on there. I mean,
Syringes
in the mouth.
God.
I mean, unbelievable. As Hangman Adam Page gets the big win in an A+ effort. And if you look closely, you could see Swerve make it so Page could rip his grill out as well. I mean, just a sicko moment in Chicago.
Just a brutal, violent match. It was going to be hard to top their Texas death match that they had, but they did a good job here. I mean, they've done everything. They've lit houses on fire. They've invaded houses, and this Swerve and Hangman feud, I know some people are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm going to throw out a comp there. Like, this should be AEW's Brett and Shawn Michaels. These guys should just stay apart from each other and never... I know oftentimes when guys feud for such a long time, there's always a trope like, well, what should we do next? Like, should we just throw these guys together in a tag team? Like, after they had this blood feud? So these guys should be separated, be lifetime, long time, rivals, I think. And I think you can build this company around Swerve and Hangman. So, I thought it was a great match. It was super violent, like you said. And Hangman coming out on top, but you have to think that Swerve is still sometime down the road is going to get his revenge.
We know the other member of Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, Angelo Stefano, is not a fan of cages at all. I mean, that was a good way to close out the match, having it in a cage match, right? I mean,
yeah, he hated the level, and honestly, I wasn't a fan of the level of violence.
Okay.
Love both competitors, and I like how they built it, and I think Derek's analysis and prediction is spot on as to like what they need to do or should do.
Long-term storytelling. Yes.
But syringes is gross, and I don't need to see them in a
topping.
face.
Yeah,
that's the one bad thing,
part.
Especially with like TLC matches from back in the day with the Hardys and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, that like you do so good in the first one, like the second and third one is like, well, now what are we gonna do? So these guys do. I mean, which isn't a bad thing that there's so good performers that. How do you go from an A+ to an A++?
Which I'm glad the way they ended it, which is like just a brutal single chair shot to the head. That's maybe not the craziest thing. Still violence and very dangerous to do, but it's something that should be impactful. But we've seen a ton of chair shots, throughout the years. So maybe this is good to like bring it back a little bit, from the syringes and setting people on fire and everything. So.
Very interesting stuff. As always, we would love to hear from you guys because AEW always puts on great pay-per-views. We would love to hear from you what you guys thought. Thumbs up, thumbs down. That's good stuff right there. So let us know what you thought of AEW All Out. Before we close the show today, we got some Ultimate Wrestling trivia from one of our famous friends. Check it out.
Chris Van Vliet. Before becoming executive vice president of WCW in 1988, what was Jim Herd a regional manager of?
All All right, that is a friend of the show. If you know the answer to that Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, drop it below. All right, that wraps up this edition of Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, the show. As always, the Pro Wrestling Tea Store is open 24/7. We've got lovely Head here. We've got some Beetlejuice goodies. We had some cheese curds behind the scenes here.
Our head's name is Chad.
Chad.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Chad. How you doing?
It looks like a Chad.
He most definitely does. All right. For Dashing Derek, the man in the middle, Mike Merc. My name is Devon.
And this is Chad.
And that is Chad. Say hi to Chad, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday for Ultimate Wrestling Trivia, the show on YouTube.